When time feels lost, have you ever looked back and wondered where all those years went? The time you spent waiting for a call that never came. The job that drained you but paid the bills. The love that left before you understood what it meant. We carry these moments like quiet disappointment tucked away, but never really gone. In a world that moves so fast, it's easy to believe that if something didn't work out, it was a waste. That the years spent doubting yourself or chasing something that slipped through your fingers just disappeared. But what if they didn't? What if time doesn't actually vanish but waits for us to be ready? Carl Jung once said, "What you deny subdues you. What you accept transforms you." And maybe, just maybe, all the things you thought were detours were directions. Maybe the heartbreak shaped the way you love now. Maybe the job you hated taught you how to lead with more compassion. Maybe the stillness, the stuckness, the silence was a kind of preparation. You see, the universe has a way of keeping records, not as punishment, but as a patient teacher. It remembers the seeds you planted in pain and waters them quietly in the background, until one day without warning life hands them back to you in bloom. So what if nothing was really lost? What if it was all just unfolding right on time? Let's go deeper into this quiet truth, into the 5 ways time returns to us when we're ready to receive it. 1. When nothing feels like enough. Have you ever wondered why some chapters in your life feel like they led nowhere? Why certain years feel empty, like you were moving, but not really going anywhere? You showed up, tried your best, waited patiently, but the breakthrough never came. It's easy to think of that time as wasted. The relationship that didn't last, the job that left you burnt out, the effort that went unnoticed. And deep down, a quiet question starts to form. Was it all for nothing? But time doesn't work the way we think it does. It isn't linear, not always fair, not always loud. Time is more like a quiet witness. It watches, collects, stores, then waits. Carl Jung once said, "What you deny subdues you. What you accept transforms you." Maybe those seasons of stillness weren't meant to deliver results, but to reveal something. Maybe the delay was a kind of design, something invisible aligning behind the scenes. Not punishment, preparation. Think about it. That relationship that fell apart taught you what kind of love you actually need. That job you hated, it revealed your boundaries and the value of your time. Even the times you felt most lost planted something in you. Patience, discernment, inner strength. The universe doesn't forget what you gave, even when it looked like no one noticed. It holds onto the pieces, quietly gathering the parts of you that were shaped in the dark. And when the timing is right, it brings them back. Not always in the way you expected, but in a way that fits who you've become. There's no such thing as completely lost time, just time that hasn't revealed its meaning yet. The truth is, the things you thought were dead ends might have been detours for your protection. The moments that felt like failure were often the soil for something deeper to grow. So if it all starts to make sense later, if what was once broken suddenly returns in a better form, would you be ready to receive it? And more than that, would you believe that it was never really lost in the first place? But what if the moments you once labeled as lost were simply waiting for the right time to speak again? 2. The timing was never wrong. Have you ever felt like you missed your moment? Like the window opened for just a second and by the time you reached for it, it was already gone? We all carry these quiet regrets. The job we didn't take, the words we didn't say, the feeling that if we had just acted sooner, life might look very different now. But maybe that's not the whole story. Maybe timing isn't about speed, but readiness. Maybe you weren't ready, you just weren't ready yet. Not emotionally, not spiritually. Carl Jung spoke of something called synchronicity, the idea that life isn't a string of random moments, but a conversation between your inner world and the world around you. You think of someone, and they call. You quit a job, and the very next week an unexpected offer arrives. You stay still for years, and one morning, everything shifts. Coincidence? Maybe. But maybe it's something deeper, a sign that the universe was always listening. And now it's your turn to respond. There are seasons in life when nothing seems to move. You work, you wait, you hope, and still, the phone stays silent. The dream stays distant. And in that silence, doubt creeps in. Maybe it's too late. But the universe doesn't deal in too late. It deals in right timing. Think of that friend who came back into your life after years apart, wiser, softer, more aligned. Or that job you thought you lost forever, only to realize it wasn't what you needed anyway. When something returns to unit as it was, but as it should be, you begin to see how time works differently than we thought. The timing wasn't wrong. You just hadn't become the version of yourself who could hold it yet. Because receiving isn't just about wanting, it's about being ready. Being whole enough to not need it, but still open enough to welcome it in. So if life feels quiet right now, if nothing seems to be happening, maybe something is. Maybe the path is bending quietly beneath the surface. And maybe, just maybe, the things meant for you are already on their way. Would you recognize them when they arrive? Not as they once were, but as who you've become. And sometimes, the signs that guide us forward are hidden in the very wounds we've tried to forget. 3. When old paths return in new forms. Have you ever had something or someone circle back into your life, quietly, without warning, as if time had folded in on itself? A friend you hadn't spoken to in years suddenly appears in your inbox. An idea you once abandoned starts whispering again. A door that was firmly shut begins to creak open, just enough for you to notice. We often think of the past as something static, done, filed away. But the past isn't a closed book, it's more like a conversation that pauses and picks up when the moment is right. Sometimes what disappears doesn't actually leave. It simply steps aside, waiting for the right time to return in a different form. The universe, in its quiet wisdom, doesn't discard what matters. It pauses, it rearranges. You may have walked away from something that wasn't ready to bloom, a project that felt too big, a connection that felt too soon, or a version of yourself that wasn't yet strong enough to hold what was coming. It didn't mean you failed, it just wasn't time. Carl Jung believed that life isn't random, that patterns and meaning lie beneath the surface. He called it synchronicity. Not coincidence, but connection. Not chance, but timing. Maybe the friend who returns is carrying a message you're finally ready to hear. Maybe the idea that once overwhelmed you now finds its way into a calmer, steadier mind. Maybe the thing you gave up on hasn't given up on you. We often grieve things we let go of too soon. But what if nothing real is ever truly lost? What if the connections that were meant for you are never really gone, only delayed? Until you're aligned enough to receive them, you're not the same person you were back then. You've learned, you've softened, you've grown. And because of that, what comes back to you now comes differently, comes deeper, comes clearer. The universe doesn't waste what has purpose. It holds onto the pieces until you're ready to carry them without fear. Until what once felt too heavy now feels like home. So the next time something reappears to me and calls, something stirs, a door cracks open again, pause before you call it a coincidence. Ask yourself, is this a second chance or just the right one, arriving right on time? Because once we learn to see pain differently, even the people and pieces we let go of can begin to return with new meaning. 4. When life begins to flow again. Have you ever noticed how some things used to feel impossible until one day they didn't? The conversation that always ended in silence suddenly opens into understanding. The job that once felt out of reach now arrives with an unexpected invitation. And you wonder, what changed? We often think it's the world that has shifted, that the opportunity finally arrived, that people finally came around. But most of the time it's us. Our inner rhythm finally matched the pace of what we were asking for. There's something quiet but powerful that happens when your mind stops resisting what your soul already knows. You stop chasing, you stop forcing, you begin to allow. And in that allowing, time begins to move differently. Carl Jung believed in the alignment of inner and outer worlds. He saw the psyche as something deeply connected to the patterns of the universe. And maybe that's why nothing really works until you do. Not because you were broken, but because what you wanted wasn't meant to come through fear or pressure or desperation. Think back to a time when everything felt like a struggle. You tried, you pushed, you waited, and yet nothing opened, no matter how hard you knocked. Then, slowly something inside softened. You let go of the need to control the outcome. And that's when things started to move. Not all at once, but gently. like the pieces had just been waiting for you to be still enough to receive them. The universe doesn't respond to force, it responds to readiness. And readiness isn't about having it all together. It's about being in the right state of presence to see clearly, to choose wisely, to act calmly. When your inner state shifts, your outer world realigns. What once felt unreachable now seems within arm's length, not because the world finally gave in, but because you became the version of yourself who could hold it with grace. So when life begins to flow again, when what was once blocked starts to move, notice the change not just around you, but within you. And ask yourself gently, was time ever working against me or just waiting for me to be ready? And in the space where old connections stir, new possibilities often begin to bloom. 5. The present knows what to do with the past. Have you ever looked around your life and realized that with even noticing you're living in the answer to a question you once asked in silence? Not in the exact shape you imagined, not on the timeline you hoped for, but here, still. We often think the past is something to escape or bury. We carry it like a weight, old mistakes, missed chances, time we wish we'd used better. But the past isn't here to punish you. It's here to reveal itself when you're finally ready to understand what it was trying to teach all along. Time doesn't forget what you gave. The effort, the heartbreak, the long nights wondering if it would ever be worth it. The universe doesn't erase what mattered, it simply waits for the moment. You can receive it without fear, without rush, without needing it to be something it's not. Maybe that's why the present feels different now. Maybe it's not just a new chapter. Maybe it's the return of everything that once seemed lost, no, in a form that fits who you've become. You might not have noticed it at first, but the clarity you have now, the peace that finds you more often, the quiet strength in your decisions, that didn't come out of nowhere. It came from every version of you that kept going when it was hard, every no that protected you, every ending that forced you to see yourself more clearly. Carl Jung believed that what we suppress controls us, but what we accept transforms us. And maybe that's what this moment is: transformation made visible. The energy you poured into healing, the forgiveness you offered without closure, the patience you practiced without knowing what you were waiting for. Now it begins to return, not in the same language, not in the same form, but in ways that feel like breath after holding it in for too long. A job that doesn't drain you, a relationship that doesn't ask you to shrink, a sense of meaning that doesn't come from proving, but from simply being. This is what happens when the past doesn't haunt you, it informs you. When time stops feeling like something lost and starts becoming something lived. So if today feels quieter, softer, fuller, maybe it's not because life has finally arrived. Maybe it's because you have. And if this is what the universe gives back when we're ready, what else might still be on its way, quietly waiting to return? It's in those unexpected moments that life starts to move with you, instead of against you. 6. The shape of readiness. Have you ever felt like everything you were waiting for started showing up only after you stopped waiting? Like life was holding its breath until you finally exhaled. The moment you let go of the struggle, things that once felt impossible began unfolding quietly, almost effortlessly. We don't always notice the shift when it happens. We just wake up one day and realize we're no longer chasing. The need to prove, to push, to earn every ounce of peace softens. And in that softness, things begin to arrive. It's not magic, though it can feel like it. It's a realignment between your energy and your path, between the version of you that once reached from lack and the version now moving from wholeness. Carl Jung believed that what you seek is already seeking you, but he also knew that what you're not yet ready to hold will pass you by, out of cruelty, but wisdom. Because life doesn't just hand us what we ask for, it waits for who we become. Think about a time you wanted something so badly, it hurt. You did everything right. You worked hard, stayed hopeful, even tried to stay patient, but nothing came. Then, sometimes years later it did. And by then, you were different, wiser, clearer, able to carry what would have crushed you back then. Time wasn't denying you. It was refining you, teaching you how to hold joy with steady hands, how to welcome love without fear, how to meet opportunity without shrinking or clinging. When your energy changes, so does the way the world meets you. Not because the world changed, but because you did. That's the beauty of readiness. It opens doors you didn't have to knock on. You stop asking, "Why is it so hard?" and start asking, "Why does this feel so right?" And that question carries a quiet answer, because you're not fighting the current anymore. You've become the person your future was waiting for. So if things begin to feel easier, they start to fall into place without force. Don't doubt it. Don't brace for loss just because peace feels unfamiliar. Let yourself receive what's arriving now, not because you chased it, but because you've grown into someone who can hold it well. And if that's true, if readiness changes everything, then what else might already be on its way, waiting for the right version of you to arrive? And when time finally flows in harmony with who you are, the present becomes something more than just now, it becomes return. 7. Where the past becomes the present. Have you ever realized that what you're living today is the return of something you thought was gone? Not in the same form, not with the same people, but with the same heartbeat, no steady, matured, and ready to be understood. We often look back and think of certain seasons as waste, time we should have used better, moments when we loved too much, stayed too long, trusted too quickly. But time isn't keeping score, it's keeping memory. The energy you once gave away freely, painfully, hopefully didn't vanish. It settled into the soil of your becoming. It waited for you to grow deep enough roots to hold what would one day rise. That's the thing about life. It rarely gives us back what we lost. Instead, it returns it in a shape that fits the person we've become. The love you gave and never got back, it finds you in a friend who listens without fixing. The job that drained you but sharpened your voice, it led to one where you're finally allowed to use it. The years you spent invisible, they taught you how to see others in their quiet corners. Carl Jung believed that nothing is ever truly lost, only transformed. And maybe this is how transformation speaks, not in grand moments, but in quiet recognitions. In the way you're no longer pulled toward what once hurt you. In the way you no longer need to prove you're enough. In the way peace finds you without having to be chased. The present is not just a moment, it's a mirror, reflecting everything you've survived, carried, questioned, forgiven. It's the place where all the lessons land, where pain softens into perspective. The universe doesn't forget what you gave even when no one saw it. It doesn't discard your efforts just because they didn't pay off in the moment. It collects, it stores, it returns when you're ready. So if life feels like it's finally opening again, gently, slowly, without the urgency it once had, maybe it's because you're no longer asking for the past to come back. You're allowing it to arrive differently, not as something to redo, but as something to receive. And maybe this is what healing looks like. Not dramatic, not loud, just you finally standing in the life you didn't know you were preparing for all along. So the question becomes, if nothing was wasted, if every version of you was leading to this one, are you ready to live like it's all been returning for you all along? So perhaps the question isn't what you've lost, but what's finally finding its way back to you, in a form you're ready to hold. Nothing was wasted. What if I told you that every quiet moment of waiting, every choice you questioned, every path that felt like a detour was never wasted? That time, even when it felt empty, was doing something, building you, preparing you, softening the edges of who you were, so you could hold what life was shaping for you. Sometimes we think we're stuck, when in truth, we're being still because the next chapter requires more of us than the last one did. And stillness is not failure. It's a recalibration. It's the pause where meaning starts to take root. Maybe the job that didn't work out wasn't a rejection, but a redirection. Maybe the person who left didn't break you, they uncovered the parts of you that still needed care. Maybe the years you spent in uncertainty weren't lost, they were growing the wisdom you move with now. Carl Jung once said that what we accept transforms us. So what if you stop trying to erase the past and instead let it return reformed, rewritten by the person you've become? What if everything you thought was broken was actually breaking open? And if life has a way of circling back, offering you peace in places where there was once pain, would you be willing to receive it without guilt, without doubt, without needing to earn it all over again? Because maybe, just maybe, the universe never forgot, and time never lost track of you. It was just waiting for the moment you'd finally believe nothing was ever truly lost to begin with.